Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Authorities in South Australia say that it's game over for a 42-year-old accused thief this week after he was allegedly caught trying to steal an entire arcade machine from a local mall. According to reports, the incident took place just before 8:30 a.m. on November 11th, when the suspect, who has not been identified by name, entered the Parabanks shopping center in the Adelaide suburb of Salisbury. The 42-year-old was allegedly captured by the mall's surveillance cameras as he walked up to an area where several arcade machines were. He then brazenly unplugged one of the machines, a Chocolate Castle claw machine game, and began wheeling it away towards an exit. Though the man had tried to cover up the crime by dressing as a maintenance worker, his disguise apparently didn't work on everyone, as a few concerned shoppers ended up calling the police. They were able to arrive at the scene after the suspect had loaded the claw machine into a white van in the parking lot, but before he could flee the scene. In addition to catching the suspect red-handed with the claw machine, officers soon discovered that the man's getaway van was also stolen. Not only that, but the vehicle's license plate had been replaced with an obviously fake one made out of a sheet of paper, with numbers drawn on with a marker. Unbelievably, police say it didn't end there though. The stolen van was apparently loaded with bags of coins that led them to believe this wasn't the first machine the suspect had stolen. Sure enough, a search of the man's home in nearby Parafield Gardens turned up 10 more allegedly stolen arcade machines. This week's arrest is reportedly welcome news to the owner of the Chocolate Castle claw game, who says that he has had at least 11 of his arcade machines stolen from shopping malls all across Adelaide in recent weeks. He estimates that between the machines and their contents, the thefts have cost his business in excess of $50,000. While it's not clear if the 42-year-old suspect has been officially connected to any of these other thefts, authorities say that they are currently investigating whether this might be the case. At the time of this recording, the 42-year-old has been charged with attempted theft and illegal use of a motor vehicle. Representatives from Taiwan's Taipei City Police say that at least 7 people have been arrested this week after a 22-year-old man allegedly caused a fatal car crash and then tried to fight police and emergency workers who responded to the scene. According to reports, the incident began in the early morning hours of November 14th when the suspect, identified only by the last name Lee, was allegedly street racing against an underage 16-year-old driver, identified by the last name of Chang. The two were reportedly speeding down Zhongshan West Road when they approached an underpass at around 4:20 a.m. That's when Lee allegedly clipped the back of another car with his own vehicle, sending that vehicle flying. The car, which was being driven by a 24-year-old man named Wang, rolled over twice before smashing into one of the sides of the underpass wall. While Wang's 22-year-old female passenger managed to escape the devastating collision with only minor injuries, sadly, the same couldn't be said for Wang. He was pinned beneath his vehicle and lost vital signs at the scene. He would later be pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. As tragic as the situation already was, police say that when they arrived at the scene, the incident was far from over. As paramedics and officers tried to do their jobs and save Wang's life, Lee reportedly became aggressive and started insulting the police. The situation apparently got more chaotic when several of Lee and Chang's friends reportedly showed up at the crash site and also started pushing and harassing reporters who had started to gather. Things finally came to a head when Lee reportedly started moving towards several of the police and tried to attack them. A warning shot was fired as a deterrent, but when Lee allegedly reached for one of the officers' guns, he was shot in the thigh and then taken into custody. Authorities say that at least 6 of his friends who had shown up at the scene were also arrested. At the time of this recording, no updates have been given about Lee's condition, nor have the charges against him been reported. Police say that they suspect that he was under the influence of alcohol at the time of the crash, but blood tests confirming this have also not been released. Authorities in the Colombian city of Bucaramanga say that they are searching for a group of unknown suspects this week after a well-known musician and his wife were the victims of a horrifying and fatal robbery. According to reports, the incident took place on the afternoon of November 10th when singer John Alejandro Jerez Chacon and his wife, 38-year-old Ana Marcela Calderon Gonzalez, were out doing a series of financial transactions. They first withdrew 5.4 million pesos, or about $1,100 US, from an ATM in Florida Blanca, then traveled to a local home supply store in Bucaramanga, where they had arranged to meet a couple to sell their BMW. That payment was made electronically, so after handing over the vehicle, John and Anna traveled to another bank to withdraw the money, 9.6 million pesos, or about $2,000 US. After grabbing a taxi, the couple headed towards their final destination, a third bank where they reportedly planned to deposit all of their cash. However, tragically, they would never make it. At around 5:30 p.m., John and Anna were stopped at a traffic light when out of nowhere, 4 armed men on motorcycles pulled up and blocked their taxi. The suspects then approached the couple and violently robbed them, allegedly shooting them both multiple times before speeding off with all of their cash. Though the taxi driver rushed the couple to a nearby hospital, sadly, it was too late for Anna. She died of a bullet wound to the abdomen. John, meanwhile, suffered gunshot wounds to both of his arms, though his injuries were non-life-threatening. At the time of this recording, authorities have not identified any of the perpetrators behind the terrifying and brazen crime, though say that they are investigating CCTV footage taken from the area surrounding the crime scene. The mayor of Bucaramanga has also announced a 10 million peso, or approximately $2,050 reward, for any information that leads to the arrest of those responsible. Authorities in Thailand's Tak province say that a 34-year-old monk is in quite a bit of trouble this week after he allegedly stole 2 cars while high on drugs and led police on a dramatic chase. According to reports, the incident took place sometime on November 16th at the Borlukrang Temple in Mae Sot district. It began when the suspect, 34-year-old Anip Palau, also known by the nickname Boy, allegedly hopped into a Nissan Navara pickup truck which had been left unattended by a guest at the temple. He then sped off. The owner of the truck and another monk from the temple quickly attempted to follow Boy in another vehicle. However, they decided to call police when they couldn't catch up. Meanwhile, after traveling about 12 miles, Boy reportedly decided to ditch the stolen pickup when he spotted a used car showroom in downtown Mae Sot. This time, he stole a purple Hyundai sedan before getting back on the road once again. Realizing that police were now looking for him, Boy apparently decided to try and hide in a crowded area. This was unsuccessful, though, and he was soon spotted. However, rather than surrendering, the fugitive monk drove into the busy area. Thankfully, no one was injured, though police say that he endangered the lives of dozens of people. The chase finally came to an end shortly after, when Boy reportedly hit another vehicle at a red light near the local hospital. He was quickly taken into custody, after which testing allegedly revealed that he was high on drugs. Police haven't specified what Boy was tested for, however. While Boy is now expected to face charges for stealing another person's property and for drug offenses, authorities say that it definitely could have turned out worse for him. According to reports, both of the owners of the vehicles he stole declined to file complaints against him, saying that they were just happy to get their property back. Still, Boy could be looking at up to 3 years in prison. As a side note, while Boy has reportedly been a monk for years, it's said that he recently transferred to the temple where this week's incident began. In fact, this was apparently only his 4th day there. If nothing else, it seems that he certainly knows how to make a first impression. Authorities in the English county of Bedfordshire say that they are investigating a terrifying triple stabbing attack this week, one that left 2 men dead and another with serious injuries. According to reports, the incident began just before 1:20 a.m. on November 13th, when police were called to an area of Tithe Farm Road in the town of Houghton, Regis. While the original call appears to have been about a man being struck by a vehicle, when officers arrived at the scene, they instead found 3 men, all of whom were suffering from stab wounds. Sadly, 2 were pronounced dead at the scene, while the third was rushed to a local hospital. The 2 deceased victims have since been identified as Patrick Howard and Adam Finelli, while the third man has been identified as Mason Jordan. Currently, Mason is said to be recovering and is in serious but stable condition. So far, police say that they have arrested 2 men in connection with the stabbings. Neither of the men's names have been released, though authorities say that they are both in their 30s and each has been arrested on suspicion of 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. While almost no other information has been released at the time of this recording, including the circumstances that led up to the fatal attack, it has been reported that the crime was targeted and that the victims and the suspects knew each other. Police say that they are still investigating, however, and are encouraging anyone who might have information about the case to come forward. Police and healthcare officials in the Indonesian province of West Java say that they are trying to set the record straight this week after a 40-year-old man allegedly attempted a harebrained scheme to fake his own death, accidentally sparking a viral internet rumor in the process. According to reports, the situation began on November 11th when the 40-year-old suspect, identified only by the initials US, called for an ambulance with a casket to come to the home of him and his wife in South Jakarta. When the vehicle arrived, the couple allegedly told the driver that they needed to go pick up the body of a deceased family member in Bogor, Regency. The driver claims that the husband and wife both looked healthy when they started the journey, but that somewhere along the way, they requested a short stop at a highway rest area. However, when they went to leave, only US's wife appeared to get back in the vehicle. That's when she directed him to drive to a different address, a health clinic in Rangka district. Upon their arrival at the clinic, the driver finally realized where US had been. He had reportedly snuck into the casket in the back of the ambulance and was now pretending to be dead. The driver would later tell police that he had a pretty good idea as to why this was the case. During the ambulance ride, US's wife apparently complained at length about the fact that they were in serious debt, and that recently, many people had been trying to collect the money from them that they were owed. It's now believed that US and his wife came up with the whole scheme to try and fake his death. As you might imagine, just like the ambulance driver, workers at the clinic were not fooled by US's bizarre acting, and refused to pronounce him dead as his wife allegedly requested. Sometime after this, likely when US figured out that the scheme was not working, he miraculously started to come back to life. He still apparently put on quite a show though, and was transferred to Bogor General Hospital just to make absolutely sure that nothing was actually wrong with him. Well, physically speaking anyway. While authorities say that they are still in the early stages of their investigation and have put off questioning US and his wife until he is discharged from the hospital, in the meantime, they've got another issue to deal with. It turns out that footage of US springing back to life in the casket made its way onto social media, and after it did, quickly went viral. Many now seem to be under the mistaken impression that the 40-year-old genuinely died and came back to life, a rumor which police and health officials are currently trying to quash. The hospital where US was admitted even put out a statement clarifying that at no point was he ever declared dead. But, it's the internet, so all we can say is, good luck trying to get that one sorted out. At the time of this recording, the situation is still developing, though police say that if convicted of trying to deliberately mislead authorities, US and his wife could each be looking at up to a year in prison. Authorities in Brazil's federal district say that a 31-year-old model has been arrested and charged after she allegedly shot and killed her fiancé earlier this month during the middle of a drug-fueled argument. According to reports, the incident took place sometime in the early morning hours of November 9th, when 31-year-old Marcela Martins got into a heated argument with her fiancé, 40-year-old Jordan Lombardi, at the Parkway Motel in Brasília. It's not clear what the argument was about. However, according to multiple sources, it came at the end of a night where the pair had consumed a decent quantity of alcohol and were on a, quote, cocktail of drugs. Things escalated until at some point, Marcela allegedly grabbed Jordan's handgun and shot him in the head. The fatal bullet struck him in the eye, but he was also reportedly later found with additional injuries to his face. Following the killing, police say that Marcela fled the scene half naked in Jordan's Audi Q7, still in possession of his gun. When the car, which reportedly belonged to Jordan's company, was remotely disabled, she allegedly held up a school bus driver at gunpoint and stole that vehicle to continue her escape. She was arrested sometime later by police and charged with murder and armed robbery. According to reports, Marcela is now claiming that she killed her fiancé in self-defense, though no other details substantiating this appear to have been released. While she currently remains in custody, authorities say that she had to be moved from the first facility she was at because she was attacked by other inmates on her first day there. Marcela's lawyer has stated that he is currently seeking provisional release for her, claiming that she was also recently diagnosed with a brain tumor that she has yet to receive treatment for. The situation is still under investigation. Authorities in the Turkish city of Istanbul say that 6 people are dead this week and dozens of others are injured following a devastating explosion on a busy street said to be a terror-related bombing. According to reports, the explosion took place just before 4:30 p.m. on November 13th on Istiklal Avenue, a popular shopping area in Istanbul's historic Beyoğlu district. The blast sent crowds of terrified people running for their lives as they tried to escape the carnage, fearing that there might be another explosion. Thankfully, however, that was not the case, and police and emergency responders were soon able to secure the area. Sadly, a total of 6 people died as a result of the bomb. At the current time, it appears that only 2 of the victims have been publicly named, a man named Yusuf Meydan and his young daughter Ikrin. Yusuf reportedly worked for Turkey's Ministry of Family and Social Services. Estimates of the wounded, meanwhile, still seem to vary widely depending on the report, but the most recent numbers seem to indicate that at least 80 people were injured. While the situation is generally agreed to be a terror attack of some kind, it appears that currently no group has officially taken responsibility for the heinous crime. That being said, authorities within Turkey have pointed the finger at Kurdish separatists, with whom the country has a fraught and violent history. This has been vehemently denied by the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, an organization that is described either as a militant political movement or a terror group, depending on who you ask. To prove their claims, the Turkish government says that they have so far arrested 51 people in connection with this week's explosion, among them the woman accused of actually detonating the bomb. This suspect, identified as a Syrian national by the name of Alam al-Bashir, was reportedly captured on surveillance video sitting on a bench right where the explosion happened, leaving just minutes before it took place. Turkish authorities now claim that al-Bashir admitted to having ties to militant Kurdish groups, including the PKK's Syrian affiliate, the Democratic Union Party. However, at the time of this recording, this has not been confirmed. The situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a minute to thank our amazing supporters over on Patreon. As many of you are aware, our situation on YouTube always seems to be a bit uncertain, but our patrons help to ensure that we can continue to make content like this long term without having to worry as much about what surprises might be thrown our way. Plus, patrons also get access to 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. If you'd like to help support the channel directly, head over to patreon.com/crimezone to join. You can also find that link in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and take care.